Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Prepping for a Purpose. Uh, Joined with us tonight is Larry Roberts and Justin Wolf, and tonight we are going to discuss water as a whole. But before we start going, I want to run over my sponsors right quick. First off, we have Wolf Customs at wolfcustoms.com. Fine leather goods. You can also find them on Facebook at Wolf Customs or YouTube under the username Greer Wolf. And our other sponsor is anamericanwarning.com. Be sure to check out that website. And if you don't have the book yet, be sure to get the book. You can find it on amazon.com, Google Play, Barnes & Noble. So, anyways, with that, we'll get started with introductions. Larry, please, sir.
Well, my name is Larry Roberts. I'm got a YouTube channel, obviously, under my name, and just like a lot of bushcrafting and survival type stuff, I've been hitting this stuff pretty hard. I've been interested in it at an early age, and now that my kids are gone, I can really hit it hard. You know, I've been doing a lot of studying and a lot of practice, a lot of practical application. So that's just kind of where I'm at. Nothing major, just getting out into the woods and really trying this stuff a lot.
All right, thanks, Larry. Thanks for being on the panel once again this week. Justin Wolf.
Well, like Larry said, my name is Justin Wolf. I am the owner and founder of wolfcustoms.com, the sponsor that Larry had mentioned earlier, where I offer a lot of leather goods, as well as I've started making knives as well. I also have a YouTube channel that's Greer Wolf, where I show different bushcraft techniques, survival techniques, hunting and trapping, and as well as leather tutorials. So, like Larry, I've been doing this kind of stuff my entire life. It's just nice that now we have a place to come and share everything like YouTube.
Excellent. Thank you for being on the panel, Justin. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's episode is going to be about water, and that is storing water, finding water, boiling water, or sanitizing water, making it safe to drink. So with that, we'll just jump right into it. I don't know. I know I talked to Larry earlier today, and he said he doesn't store water because he has water sources on his property or very close to his property. Justin, do you store any kind of water, bottled water, or giant barrels of water? Or?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I keep cases of water with these water bottles right here. I keep about 5 cases on hand at all time, or I try to anyway. Once I go through a case and I replace it and so on and so forth. But I always keep at least 5 on hand, and I'd like to keep more on hand than that. And that's even though, we have water source and everything else around, I still keep that on hand. And I'll tell you the reason why is because you don't know if something's going to happen to that water source at some point or another. So this should not be your first line of defense. Your first line of defense, just like Larry was talking about, is the water source on or around your property. But if something does happen to that water source, it's definitely a good idea to have it backup plan like that.
Amen. And you said you kept 5 cases on hand. With the water you have on hand, how many days would you say you have on hand, and how many days would you recommend to have on hand?
With the 5 cases, it's roughly, I would say, about 3 weeks. However, I completely acknowledge the fact that I need more, and that's why we're trying to implement more cases as time goes by. I was talking to David Robertson from American Warning, and he actually buys his water by the pallet off of Amazon.com. That water is delivered right to him. The moment that he gets halfway through his pallet, he orders another one. So he always has a pallet and a half on hand. Now this is going to be expensive, but you're investing money in something that you drink anyway. You know what I mean? So you're not out any money, and that's what people need to understand. Just because you spend a lot of money on water doesn't mean that you're out any money, because you're going to drink it regardless.
Exactly.
So when you guys use that water, you don't use your tap water or whatever to drink. You always drink like bottled water and stuff. And like David, he always buys the stuff. That's what he normally drinks then.
Mm-hmm. Correct. I don't drink. I will drink the tap water here, but I don't drink it all the time because there's something about our tap water that tastes awful. I mean, it tastes worse than any water that you're going to get out of the creek or the river. There's just something about it that it just doesn't taste like good.
Wow, that's
well, I was
great.
wondering. Yeah, I have well water here, so I always take my own water to work or do whatever. I don't ever drink city water just because, like you said, to me it tastes like a swimming pool.
Yeah.
It tastes horrible. So I could definitely see where you guys would, want your water filtered. And I think, I might have to rethink my whole not storing water deal. The creek that runs through my property is spring fed, so it's from a spring, and I've never seen it dry up. But if it were to get contaminated with something, or if the river, I've got a really good sized river about 2 miles down the road, if it were to get contaminated, I could definitely see where I would want water on hand. We do have swamps and stuff, and I've got a small water filter in addition to some other means of sanitation and stuff. But I could definitely see where if there was a chemical spill, if there was something, upstream of me that contaminated either my creek or my river, then it definitely would be a good idea to have some bottled water on hand. How long do you keep it? I understand that you rotate your stock, but how long could you keep it, do you feel, before you wouldn't want to use it? Are you worried about the BPAs and stuff like that leach through?
Not at all.
That's a great question.
I'm not worried about that at all because, I'm keeping this out of the sunlight. I'm keeping it in optimal temperature in my house. You know what I mean? And even if I personally would store this for years and years and years in the house and not have an issue one drinking it. Not at all. It's out of the sun. It's in a good controlled climate, so I am not worried about having it on hand for years.
And that's one of the main things that I understand is that as long as you keep it out of the sun, keep it in a dark, cool place, it won't leach those BPAs out of the plastic.
Right. And honestly, I know a lot of people are going to harass me about this, but I don't worry too much about that kind of shit anyway, because I'm the guy that grew up drinking water out of a water hose and everything else, you know what I mean? And I'm fine.
People don't do that anymore?
I still do it.
I do.
I still do it. My daughter does it. These are just things that I grew up doing. You guys have grown up doing, and so I just don't worry about that stuff as much. So
I wouldn't worry about the BPAs either. I was just wondering if you were worried about it. If there was nuclear waste or something in my river, and I had a bunch of water in my basement that I'd stored for 4 years in plastic containers, believe me, I'm guzzling that water. I mean, I'm not going to worry about it. If I, have an issue with, I'm 40-something now. If I have an issue in 30 years, I'm going to be 70 years old anyway. It ain't going to be a big deal,
01LS1SS in the chat room says that most bottles are BPA free, should be good for at least 2 years. Once again, don't take my word for it. Do your own research, but I'm sure there's a lot of truth in that.
Oh, I guarantee that there's a lot of truth to it. And I personally, I wouldn't have a problem drinking that water after it's sit there for 5 years. I just wouldn't have a problem with it. Not at all.
I wouldn't either, as long as it was sealed up. Now, however, in my bug-out bag, I keep 3 liters of water in there at all times in a hydration bladder.
Mm-hmm.
And I do change that out. I try to change it out once a week. I know that's probably more than you need to, but it is tap water, and I try to keep new water in there at all times, you know, because I know for a fact water will go stale, especially tap water.
Well, yeah, tap water, it's a hard water, so it's definitely
Right. Last year, I think it was, or a couple of years ago, um, went into a house that hasn't been lived in I don't know how long, a few years anyways, and the hot water stunk like a sewer because the water sat in that water tank for a few years, and oh man, there's no way in hell I would have drank it.
No.
It smelled horrible.
No.
So Larry,
I want to go back to Larry for a second and ask him a little bit more about spring-fed water. Larry, does it come out of the side of a mountain, or does it come up from the ground directly into the water source itself?
I've never actually found the source, but I know that it's north of me, and there's a road about a mile north of me, and nothing ever crosses that road. So it's on somebody else's property, and it comes from the ground. I don't really have mountains here, or I've got molehills. That's about it. But it comes from the ground.
are there cattails growing in it?
Oh yeah.
Because that's actually a really good way to find a natural spring out in the middle of nowhere. Is there will be cattails. The water will be, or the ground will be soupy, and there'll be cattails. That's one way to find water naturally like that.
Well, I live in a swamp. My
Oh.
whole state is a swamp. So I mean, you go down the side of the road and you got cattails everywhere. So I mean, it's just that is one thing that I haven't. I've gotten into primitive cordage, primitive fire, primitive trapping, primitive everything. But as far as finding water, I bet my water table's like 6 feet down. I mean, it's literally, I live in a swamp. So I've never, I mean, right out literally 10 feet from my house, there's water. So I've never had to, dig for it or worry about where it's at. I mean, you go out, obviously I pack water with me if I go out in the woods and stuff, but you're hard pressed not to stumble through some sort of puddle or something when you go out.
I dare you to come to Kansas and bring a shovel and find water.
Well, there's a reason I live in Minnesota, man.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying by a river. I mean like just out in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
Our water table is, well, it depends where you're at, but it's and I'm sure it's different for Justin, but even a mile from the river, the water table is several feet, in my area.
Well, I'll tell you, this is what they do for our farmer's field. They take a farmer's field and they try and slope it on two ends, and then they dig a trough in the middle of the farmer's field and lay drain tile to try to drain that field. That's how wet we are here.
Wow.
Jeez, we'd be planting a crop at the bottom of that.
Yeah.
Well, we plant crops too, but sometimes if you notice around here, if you notice in the springtime after the farmer has planted, there are certain sections where the water did not drain correctly and nothing will grow there because it's just standing water. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's a good thing. We don't, very, very few people irrigate around here, but we do get wet.
Right. Well, anyway, well that's pretty cool. Justin, do you have any idea how? Because I mean, Justin and I living in the same state, but our ecosystems are totally different, even though we're only a couple hours away or apart. Do you have any idea how deep the water table is where you're at?
No, I don't. But I damn sure won't want to try to dig for it.
No, it's deep. It's nothing like where Larry's at. But since we're on the subject of storing water, let me show you guys how one way I store water. And see that? Just simple 2-liter bottle, and I put it in my freezer, and it serves more than one purpose. For one, it's fresh water because I put it in there. Number two, if I just go on a camping trip, I can use that for my ice in the cooler. And when it melts, guess what? You've got drinking water. Same thing if you did have to bug out and, you have some perishables that you are bringing with you, because I would think that you are going to bring all that you can. Or maybe you have a freezer where you're going or a refrigerator where you're going. You can use that in your cooler to keep it cool. And once again, when it melts, you have drinking water. So I know none of us, or as far as I know, have the big, like 500-gallon barrels outside our house. But
My mom does.
does she? Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
I set up a rain barrel for her a couple of years ago. She mainly uses it. She doesn't filter it for drinking or anything like that. It's what she uses it for is watering her garden, and trees and all that good stuff.
how about the
But
livestock?
now the livestock, we also have a well, and so the livestock get the well water.
So, but okay, well, here's a good deal. If you have no electricity, I will assume that you have no well water.
Correct.
So, okay, right on. So you could use those barrels that you're,
Yes.
for the livestock if you had
Yes.
to. Awesome.
Yes, we could, but we also have water on the property too. We have a pond that's, even in the worst droughts, it's never gone dry. I mean, it's gotten close, but it's never gotten dry. So, worst case scenario, we can make the water stop.
Of course, if you're having a drought, you're probably not getting any gutter water anyways.
True.
So
That's true.
Ed keeps
Nice.
popping in and out of here. Ed, are you there?
I think he's still trying to get on.
Yeah.
But, you'd mentioned water that you take with you when you go camping and everything else, Terry, or, water that you would take with you in a bug out situation. I want to get your guys' opinion on this because my philosophy on any kind of a bug out situation or anything like that is the water that I'm taking with me, like this, that's going to be the last thing that I drink. I'm not going to drink this right away.
Wow.
I'm just
I'm
going to
sorry.
wait. I don't know what that was.
I had to let that go before I muted him because that's just so Ed right there. He sounded
That's
like
right.
a ping pong game.
That's right. But no, what I was saying is this is going to be my last ditch effort right here. This is going to be the very last thing that I drink because I know without a shadow of a doubt that it's good drinking water. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And something that is going around is boil your water. You know what I mean? Everybody nowadays, even in bug out situations, they're talking about, well, just boil your water, boil your water, boil your water. Well, that's fine in a short-term situation, but what you're doing when you boil that water is you're distilling it, And when you get a moment, research drinking distilled water for a long term. It's not that good for you.
No, it's not. You've taken out all the
You're not getting
minerals.
the electrolytes and everything else that you need. So if you're in a long-term situation, this is not your answer. It's not your answer unless you have the ability to replace all those electrolytes and everything else. So
Now,
the very first thing, my line of defense is these right here. Terry, I know you've got some. I don't know if Larry has some or if Ed's got some, but I tell you what, these little Sawyer water filters are the bomb. And 90% of my drinking water when I go camping comes from these right here. Terry knows that this large one, the Sawyer Squeeze, I have it set up to where I can put this hose onto it and actually hook it into a bucket, And so then I've got 5 gallons of water that's drinkable at all times. And this thing is good for 1 million gallons, So, I mean, do the math on that, you know what I mean? And then you also have the small one, which is good for like 100,000 gallons, which again, do the math. It's going to last for a long time. And these things are relatively cheap for what they accomplish. These things are just really good water filters, and you guys know that. But those water filters right there are my first line of defense. When these go out, this comes into play, and then once I feel like I've gone too far drinking distilled water, then I will start drinking stuff like that to supplement.
I wish
Now,
we could compare these side by side because I also have a Sawyer, but I have a different one. I know Justin's was the Sawyer Squeeze, and this I believe that they call it the Sawyer Point One.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is the Sawyer .02. And if we could compare, I mean, I'll hold it up to my hand. Maybe Justin can say you can see the size of this thing. It's huge. Say something real quick, Justin. So
Yeah, see this one here. It's about the same length as yours, Terry, except for this one doesn't appear to be as wide.
right, this thing is big around, but you pay a lot more for it. Let me tell you.
Now,
And,
what's the specs on it? And why is it more
well,
expensive?
I also have the bucket deal because the .02 is the only way that you can buy it is for the bucket, and this is what I do not like about it. It is not interchangeable with the Sawyer Squeeze or the .1. It will
Yeah.
not connect to it because of these damn fittings on it, but I'm going to go to my local hardware store and I'm going to make sure that it will uh, fit on the other ones. I'm sorry, Justin, what were you asking about the specs?
Well, I was just curious, why it was so more expensive.
Well, it's just mainly the.
Is it just the bucket?
No, I had to buy the bucket.
Oh, okay.
Everything I got came in this box right here. Okay, it came in this box. What's more expensive is it's well, yours. That don't take this word for word because I know it's not true, but you have like the Sawyer .1,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So it's a tenth. Well, let's just say it'll filter out a tenth of the garbage. Um, this is called the Sawyer .02, so it gets more microns out of it. Okay, if that makes sense. It's supposed to be a better filter. It's supposed to filter out more. The .1, I've drank out of yours, and I wouldn't be scared to get one myself. So I'm not,
Yeah,
they're not paying me to talk about them, so they're both fine to have. However, the thing that I don't like about them, either one, is they do not filter out chemicals. According to their website and their paperwork, they do not filter out chemicals.
No.
So, like where Justin and I live, where there's a lot of farm communities and people spraying for weeds and everything else, that ends up in your rivers that we drink out of when we go camping. So, it's something to think about. Maybe boiling is better when it comes to to removing chemicals. I don't know. Maybe you guys have more insight on that.
Well, there's a lot of chemicals that nothing gets in the water. Filters not going to remove it, and boiling isn't going to remove
Uh,
I'm curious, Justin. When you say that when you boil your water, you say you distill it. Aren't you just boiling for a little bit? And aren't you just the distilled water would be the vapor that was escaping from your canister while you were boiling it? Are you saying that when you boil it, you're destroying the electrolytes and the minerals in it just from the heat and stuff?
Not all of them, but a lot of them, yes.
So you're destroying the chemicals and the nutrients from the heat?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand what Larry's saying because it's the same. Well, one of the same ways they make alcohol, you distill it. You're actually catching the vapors, and obviously the vapors have the lowest boiling point. Yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings about that, Justin. I'm sorry, but I don't think boiling would take it out as much as true distilling.
Well, I get it. Do me a favor though, do some research on it, and you'll find out that long-term boiling is not the solution.
Oh no, I totally agree with that, but I just for the viewers, I want them to know there's a difference between distilling and boiling.
Yeah, I may have misspoke on that a little bit.
And that's fine. That's fine. I think everybody knew what you meant, but I just wanted to clarify. So
I wasn't trying to ouch you or anything. I was just curious. I didn't know if boiling, destroys the. I understand that it's not going to destroy the minerals because the minerals are like hard, can be like hard metals and stuff like that. I know it's not going to destroy that, but as far as electrolytes and stuff like that, I didn't know.
Yes, he was.
From what I've seen, it also will break down some of the minerals.
Larry was just trying to stir up the hornet's nest.
Well, that's what I do.
No, it's fine because I mean, well, I'm not God Almighty or anything like that. So I mean, just like David Robertson, he says, question everything, question everybody, question yourself.
Exactly.
So just because I say one thing doesn't mean that I'm 100% right, because I guarantee I'm not 100% right on half the stuff I talk about. You know what I mean? So
that's the whole purpose of this show, so we can all learn from one another.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we all need to learn.
You guys might have some information that I don't. You know what I mean? So absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be the first time that we probably disagree, but that's why we have the panel that we have, because we all have different ways of doing things and so forth. So I want to go ahead and give another shout out to our sponsors. First one being Wolf Customs, fine leather goods. You can find them at wolfcustoms.com. You can find them at Wolf Customs on Facebook or on YouTube at Greer Wolf on YouTube. And also at AmericanWarning.com. Be all kinds of information, world news, local news. Be sure to check them out. And be sure to check out the book if you haven't already. Reloaded at American Warning. You can find it at Amazon.com, Google Play, Barnes & Noble. So with that. All right, fellas, we've talked about storing water. Some. There's more ways than what we've mentioned, but that's just what we do. How about disinfecting water to make it safe to drink? We kind of went over boiling and the filters. Is there any other way that you guys disinfect your water, or wouldn't be against disinfecting your water?
Well, I mean, you can use bleach or you can use iodine and everything else. The problem with that is you have to have, a good mixture of iodine ratio of water or bleach to water. You know what I mean? And honestly, I'm not up to par on what those ratios should be, because it seems like it changes. What you read one year, it changes to what it says the next year. So I don't rely on chemicals to neutralize anything we do on water.
Well, I can tell you what, if I was out in the middle of nowhere and all I had was one of those iodine Q-tip thingies,
Mm-hmm.
I would not be against stirring a cup of water with that to clean it. I mean, if you're dying of thirst,
Oh,
I don't know the ratios either, but I'm sure that would probably be enough. And I'm talking about the big surgical ones,
If you read Cody Lundine's, one of his books, he really goes in. He seems to love that iodine tincture of 2% or whatever, and I had to special order it through my Walmart. It didn't cost a lot. It just took them a little bit to get. But it's only like 3 or 4 drops, depending on how contaminated you think your water is. 2 or 3 drops or 3 to 4. I can't remember. It's been a while. But I wrote it. I took a piece of electrical tape and wrote the ratio down on the bottle for a quart of water. But as far as adding more chemicals to my water, I used to carry it, but something about adding more chemicals to the water that already has probably a ton of chemicals in it. I would not be opposed to using chemicals. It's just something that if you can do it so easily by the filters you guys showed. I have a different filter. I think it's a Catadine or something, but it's got a soft shelled bag on it, and the filter's only, this big. and it's, I don't know, it's good for a lot. But if I can either take that filter or boil it, I think that's personally for me a better method than using chemicals. I would not be opposed to, if I was, you know, like you said, dying of thirst, adding some stuff to it. It's just not something that I personally go to.
It's now'd be a good time for David to pop in because he believes in consuming iodine. Now I don't know how much he consumes, but I know that he does consume iodine in some form or another.
In addition to iodized salt?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not going to speak for him. Justin may know better than I do.
No, I don't. I don't know what all he takes.
By the way, I want to mention the chat room. If you guys are watching, be sure to get in on the chat. Young and Prepared asked for that we give him a shout out, so we're giving him a shout out right now. And I'm bad about skipping back and forth between here and the chat room, so it may take a while for me to see it. Anyhow.
Hey, you know, real quick, going back, Terry, what we were talking about the bucket, putting in the pack and everything else.
Yeah.
You know, most people know that your bucket can fit into a large variety of backpacks and everything else, but there's still a lot of people out there that don't realize that. You know, putting that bucket in there and it weighs nothing, put everything inside your bucket and you take that with you.
Well, here's the I totally understand it, and that's exactly what I had in mind. And you know, I know we sort of discussed this earlier just a little bit. Here's my bucket, just a Walmart bucket. I painted it camouflage. You know, I did not paint the inside. There's the adapter and thing to put the thing. Obviously, it's a couple inches from the top, so you get some sediment at the bottom. But simple 5-gallon bucket, maybe it's 6 gallons, I'm not sure. I carry an ILBE. This thing will not fit in my backpack. I tried to stuff it in there this morning, and thinking that it would fit around the sides tightly, and then I could just fill the pack up like I normally did. It will not fit in my pack, so I need to get a different bucket. And I'm glad I tried that this morning because now I know.
Try a small trash can too.
That's a good idea.
But you know, and then something else. I've had people also comment when I've talked about the bucket thing and all that good stuff as well. I've had people say that their filter doesn't run very hard. I guess it takes it forever. Well, the higher you get it, the more gravity is going to push down enough water to make it flow just a little bit more powerful.
Exactly.
More PSI.
One thing that I've noticed with the .02 filter that I have, and I have not used it out in the field, okay, let me put that in there, but I have used it at home a lot. When I make my chaga tea and stuff, when I make my chaga tea, I want my water as pure as possible, so I do run it through that filter, as well as another filter that's, you know, already hooked to our drinking water to the tap. And one thing I learned with the 5-gallon bucket, when it starts out, it is so stinking slow. I'm serious. You will think that you're going to die of dehydration before you get a cup of water. But after about an hour and a half, you can't keep up with it. It flows so fast. And I don't know if the smaller filters are that way or not, but it's something I wanted to mention, that it's really slow starting out, but once it gets going, it runs out.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Larry, what are you doing? You're making a hell of a lot of noise, so you must be looking for something.
Well, I went and got my filter here. It's the
okay, the Canadian, yeah.
Yeah, the base camp deal. So, but the filter that's inside of here is way smaller than, I don't know, it's pretty small. And I don't have the instructions. I haven't used this filter too much. I've used it a couple times on backpacking trips, and when I go to the Boundary Waters, I want to take it with my wife and stuff, but supposedly 99.49s of things are, or 3.9s are taken out. So I mean, that's a lot of stuff. I don't have the instructions though as to whether it takes chemicals out. I thought it did take chemicals out, but I could be mistaken.
I know mine doesn't. I know the
Really?
distillers do not. No.
And that was the main reason I bought the .02 is because I thought that it did, and then when I got it, I found out that it didn't when I read the fine print. So that was kind of a disappointment.
Yeah, you'd think your filter would pull out. I mean, that's kind of a big bonus for a filter, is pulling out pollutants and contaminants.
Right. If
But
I've always wanted to take one of them Sawyer squeezes and like fill it up with some red wine and then run it through the filter and see if it came out clear.
yeah,
But it's not a risk I want to take spending my money.
You know, I would
No.
I would do that with one of these minis. You know, as cheap as these things are, I mean, it's only like $20.
I'll say they're like $20. So
So
I don't remember what this thing cost, but it was over $100 for that .02.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I will say that going backpacking with some other friends that bring their filters or whatever, when I was going to rely on boiling, if you don't want to sit and tend your fire, these filters are for sure the way to go. And that's why I wanted to take it. I wanted to take it with the wife, you know, and stuff. You just got your water there. You can get it anytime you want. You don't have to wait for it to boil and then wait for it to cool down. And I went backpacking with. I did a video with George Wells, and he had one of the pump types. I think it's the same brand as all this and stuff. And I was just going to boil my water, and he's down there, and he had his canteen filled up in about, maybe 2 minutes. And he's like, "Well, do you want to use it?" Yeah, I'll use it. I don't want to sit there and boil my water for 20 minutes. That's fine.
And then wait another 20 minutes for it to cool off.
Yeah.
Right. Wait 20 minutes for it to heat up, and then 20 minutes for it to cool down. Yeah.
Hell,
And then go get some more water and start over. I'm sorry,
Right, because then you're going to guzzle that and get hydrated.
Right.
Yeah, that's something that Larry and I talked about on the last Clothing Confident video. Is a lot of people, they don't quite understand how much of a hassle it is to rely on boiling your water. Because like you said, you walk to the river, you get it, you boil it. It takes a couple of minutes to boil it, and you set it aside for. There's been times where it takes 20 minutes for it to cool in the river, not outside of the river. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, you're spending. Let's just say 30 to 40 minutes to let it cool. Then by the time that happens, you're thirsty. So what do? You chug it, right?
Yeah.
So you chug it, you're gonna get more water. You boil it. It's just a never-ending cycle. It's annoying, is what it is. It's a real pain in the ass.
Yes, it is.
You guys try this next time you're out in the woods. I've done it because that's the way I grew up. But my dad, he's an old military vet, but he said you take, like, if you have a normal sized canteen, you take one mouthful of water, rinse your mouth, and spit it out. Then you take another mouthful of water and you slowly take small drinks out of that mouthful of water. And you'll be surprised how, it may not be completely rehydrated, but you'll be surprised how much better you feel because you're tricking your mind into thinking that you're getting hydrated.
Yeah, that's all you're doing. It's definitely one of those
tricking
things
yourself.
where you want to try to keep hydrated. But something else that you can do is just throw a small pebble in your mouth and suck on that rock, get the saliva rolling and everything else, and you'll actually convince yourself, or you'll convince your body that it has gotten water. The same is true with eating. If you're very, very hungry and you're around a bunch of friends or something, you guys can start talking about food. And after talking about food, what's your favorite food? Or, man, I'd love to have a big juicy cheeseburger right now. You'll actually release the chemicals in your brain that's telling you that your brain telling your body that you're consuming food, and you'll be less hungry. It's kind of strange how it works.
I think it works just the opposite. You start talking about food, I get hungry. I'm ready to eat.
I've heard the pebble trick before, but never the talking about food trick.
Maybe if you talk about swallowing food.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe, I don't
Or your
know.
stomach getting full. I don't know. Yeah, good deal. Let me, let me.
Ed
Ah,
keeps popping in and out. He's never hangs out long enough to talk to him though.
yeah, he sent me a message that he's having technical difficulties. So,
Oh, sure.
like I said, he's just trying to use his cell phone, so it's not
Terry,
working
I,
out.
I was going to make that filter for the show or whatever, but I couldn't get around to doing it.
Yeah, that was kind of
This weekend though, if we when we go camping, I'm going to do another video on making a filter out of trash and all that good stuff, so we can get that rolling.
cool. Yeah, I was just getting ready to ask you about that. I'm glad you said something. So, yeah. let me uh, let me go over our sponsors one more time, just for one thing, because it looks really cool when I do it. But if Larry had quit making if Larry had quit making so much noise. Anyways, want to thank our sponsors, wolfcustoms.com, where you can get your fine leather goods. You can also find them at Facebook at Wolf Customs or YouTube at Greer Wolf. And while you're surfing the web, be sure to check out AmericanWarning.com. And if you haven't already, check out the book Reloaded, An American Warning by David Robertson, available at Amazon, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. And, I also want to give a special thanks to, he's not in here tonight, but give a special thanks to David Robertson for making these banners and promo screenshots that I've been using. They look phenomenal. So, and I'm sure Justin doesn't mind either. So, yeah. So we've talked about storing water and disinfecting water. You guys have any good hints or clues on how to find water? Actually, um, before we get into finding water, real quick, we talked about it last week. Larry, uh, what's that EDC that you carry to get water when you're in town, when you're in a big population?
It's a four-way wrench. Basically, they call it a seal cock, and it's basically in the cities they take a regular hose bib, is what I call them. It's just a faucet from outside, and they take the handle off usually so that people won't come by and just vandals, drain the water and stuff like that. But they have a special nut or something on them that you can take, and they're usually 4 different standard sizes. And it's just a four-way wrench. Kind of looks like a four-way lug nut wrench, and you can unscrew. You can utilize the hose bib that way. And all the high rises downtown will have water in them, even if the water's been shut off for a while, just because they pump that water up to the top floor. If all the water gets shut off, it's going to take it a while to drain that whole building full of water. So you can get nice, good, clean water from a downtown building. Just a word of caution, if you've never done it before, just make sure you don't go to the sprinkler clean-out valve. You want the fresh water. And this should be pretty well marked if it's a sprinkler drain valve. It'll be marked in red, and it'll say something about sprinklers and stuff on it.
So stay away from the one that says sprinkler.
It smells bad. If you start draining it, it'll smell like rotten eggs, and it'll come out black.
Oh, sure, it's all stagnant.
Well, it's all stagnant, plus they use a really greasy pipe. And so, yeah, it's stagnant, and it's just really greasy pipe. It's for the fire sprinklers in, the major cities when you have them. I do construction, and every time they drain the system and move the heads around and stuff, the whole job site just smells like rotten eggs if you get next to them. It's pretty nasty water.
All right, excellent. So, well, I guess Larry lives in the swamp, so he has water everywhere. I wish we had some people from like Arizona in here, but I guess we don't.
Well, I used to live in Phoenix, so.
Oh, you did? Were you in?
Oh yeah,
Were
I've
you
lived a
into
lot of
bushcrafts
places.
and stuff then?
Yes, I was, but I was a lot younger. I had a lot of theory knowledge before I started doing my practical applications, and so like when you're saying, I'm sure Justin has got more practical knowledge and probably has tried this stuff, but as far as like where to look for water and stuff like that, it depends on, in the desert, it depends on if it's rained or if it's had any type of water flowage or anything. But, even a dry riverbed, if you catch it on a shady bend or something, you have to kind of look at where you're at and look at how dry it is. But you can dig a well in the shady bend or where an eddy or something would have been in the river. Or if you're up on top of a hill, you can look at the different shades of green, usually a bright green. This is just theory for me. This is not 100% I know what I'm talking about type stuff. This is, if I'm now living in Minnesota, knowing what I know, and got thrown in a desert environment, these would be the things that I would be looking for. A real sharp bend in a river where, like I said, you could dig down, or if you were up on a mountaintop, being able to look at the type of vegetation that you might be able to see, and the bright green vegetation would be a good indicator of water. The cactuses are always going to be green. You need to look for, even in the desert, they have like cottonwoods and stuff like that. So, and just the lay of the land. If you look at, you have to look at the land, in 3D, which obviously you see it in, but everywhere that it's twisting and turning and draining to, you go to the lowest point, and hopefully, you're going to find some water there.
Sure. Justin, any thoughts on that?
No, not really. That's an area that I need practice in, because where I'm at, I'm surrounded by water at all times, and you can walk, literally where I'm at right now, you can walk 10 minutes in any direction and find water, and that's pretty much the way it is in my area. I can drive 20 minutes from here, and again, get out of my car, walk any direction, 10 minutes, I'll find water. So that's been one subject that I'm lacking in, because I've never had the need to practice it. You know what I mean? So it's definitely something that I feel I probably should get out and practice, but I just haven't done it. The same with navigation. Navigation is that's one of my major weak points, because where I'm from, you find a hedgerow and you follow it. You know what I mean? So.
Right. And I think that's so funny, because we live in the same state, but yet, well, I'm not going to say you can't get lost in my part of the state, because you can get lost anywhere, but
Sure.
It's a damn sure lot easier to find where you're going, where you're at, compared to where I'm at.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Because where you're at, it's not uncommon for somebody to live on thousands and thousands and thousands of acres. Where I'm from, most people live on 20, 30 acres, so it's the population in that area is a lot greater, I guess is what I'm trying to get.
Well, in my area, the horizon is a lot closer than what it is in your area. Sure. The horizon here, it's, half a mile away, because of the rolling hills, but where you're at, it's God's country. You can see forever.
Yeah.
Oh well. Well, what else you guys got on water? We got about 10 minutes left, so.
Well, I think something that's important for everybody is to actually try the water. I see a lot of people that talk about doing stuff and blah blah blah, but I'd really encourage everybody to try drinking water from rivers. Larry and I have talked about this in the past, where people get in their minds that this is what fresh water tastes like, and it does not. If you get water from a river or a creek or a pond or something like that, it tastes way different than this, and it's a shock for some people, because they take that drink and the first thing they taste is, an irony taste, or maybe kind of a salty taste. Some things, like you were talking about, the boiled rotten eggs, might have a sulfur taste to it and everything else. So right. Don't shock yourself, put yourself into a position where you don't know what it tastes like. Try it, get used to it, learn things that you can put in the water to change the taste, or to things that you can do to make the water taste better. Like boiling it with a little piece of charcoal in it or something like that.
Right.
That would be my, and even rainwater. If you've never tasted rainwater tastes, completely different from what you find out of a river or this. Rainwater tastes more like dirt, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Rainwater has a very, tastes like dirt. Lick
Well, I
your
never
fingers
thought
and
of
taste
it.
dirt, and you've tasted rainwater.
I never thought of it till you said that, but yeah, I guess you're right. And of course, first thing I thought was, who in the hell's never tasted rainwater? But
Most people haven't. Most
yeah.
people have not tasted rainwater.
Well.
Well, it's just like we talked about, Justin. That's a really good point. I had a guy, like I said, go through advanced class with me, and he would not hydrate because we were getting our water from a beaver pond, and whether he was worried that the boiling wasn't working or whether he just didn't like the taste or whatever, he would not hydrate, and he had to tap out because he was getting cramps really bad. And just like you said, I mean, if people drink that, to me, bottled water has no taste at all, and I like a taste in my water. I love my well water, but once in a while my water softener doesn't work, and you take a drink of it, and it totally tastes like rotten eggs, But I mean, it's water. You just got to drink it, But it's like anything else, like you said, you got to practice it. If you don't practice it, or if you don't try it once, you don't know how you're going to react to it. This poor guy had never drank any type of water, evidently, than either city water or bottled water, and he couldn't handle it. He wouldn't hydrate. Whereas nobody else, had that problem. We were all just pounding water as fast as we could, and I don't know. To me, that beaver water tasted pretty good. It was just water.
Well, let's be honest with you. Who wants to drink water that when they pull it out, it looks like iced tea or coffee? You know what I mean? It's very dirty and everything else. Nobody really wants to drink it. Everybody wants something that looks clean and crystal clear and everything else. So that's where that guy made his mistake. Is he didn't practice what he preached, before he got there.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I think people have the misconception that just because water's not 100% clear, that there's bad stuff in it. That's not necessarily true. We have rivers here that are full of, and I suppose it's not 100% good for you, but I mean, they can be clear as far as pure-wise. I mean, you wouldn't want to drink out of them, but they have a lot of decomposing matter in them, and that's not necessarily bad. It's just natural. They have tannins, they have irons, they have a lot of different things in them. It's not going to be just some, like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Lake Tahoe where you can look and it's 70 feet down to the bottom. It's crystal clear. Well, we have lakes here that are, you can't see a foot below the surface, and it's not necessarily man-made chemicals pollution. It's just nature. Nature's dirty, and like you were saying, rainwater tastes like dirt. Well, this is going back to, maybe elementary or high school science or whatever, but my understanding is the water molecules attach themselves to a piece of dirt, and that's how come they are able to fall, and that's what makes rain. So each little raindrop has a little piece of dirt in it. That's what I remember from school anyway.
That could be absolutely correct, because it does. It tastes, it tastes dirty.
Well, another
not,
thing
not
on that, right? Another thing on that is that brown in the water is obviously dirt, okay? And if people think that dirt is going to hurt you, I got news for you. You are sadly mistaken. Because anybody that eats vegetables, especially fresh vegetables, I don't care how long you run it under the sink, there is dirt on those vegetables, okay? And it's just, I don't know, and 100 years ago, or, probably less than that. I mean, even my dad talks about it, and he's 72. Their well water was, come up cloudy and dirty compared to what today's is, and it was great water. And he's 72 years old. He's in, good shape for 72 years old, I guess. But no, that dirt in that water, that brown cloudiness, that's just dirt. That's not what's going to hurt you. It's the microorganisms that you cannot see that is going to hurt you.
That's right. That's right. But it's that people have been trained to think that your water is supposed to be crystal clear, and that's the problem. But no, you're right. You should grow up, for example, like everybody nowadays uses hand sanitizer and blah, blah, blah. I do not use any hand sanitizer. You won't catch me using it. I want to expose my body to different germs. I want to expose my immune system to that kind of stuff. I want it to be built up. So you got kids nowadays that grow up thinking that they have to put hand sanitizer on their hands after every little thing that they do. What they should be doing is outside playing in the mud and the dirt and everything else.
Damn right, getting in trouble, tracking it through the house like we did.
That's right. Just wash your hands with soap and water, but you don't need that antibacterial stuff.
I want to tell you guys a real quick story. My son, I love him dearly, and he grew up kind of on our hobby farm and stuff, but he's more of a city kid. He had a friend who lived on a dairy farm, and he was helping him do some chores or whatever, and the garden hose was laying in the cow pasture, and so there was cow crap all over this garden hose. And my son asked for a drink of water, and the farmer and the kid was like, just use the hose. And my son picked up the hose, and there's just, running cow crap off it. And he's like, there is no way I'm drinking from that. And the farmer and the kid, both just, sucked on that hose and got a big drink and everything. I'll never forget my son coming home and going like, Dad, they're drinking out of that. That is so nasty. And I'm like, yeah, maybe the cow crap was a little over the top, but I mean, I'm sure it wasn't on the nozzle. I mean, I'm sure you're going to be okay. And I got another friend who's he's lived on a farm, and they had automatic milkers. And once in a great while, the automatic milker would fall off the cow's udder and suck up the cow crap right away, and then go into this huge milk tank. And he ate breakfast. He would pour that milk on his cereal. And he's just, oh well, today's cereal's going to have a little crap in it, I guess.
That puts a whole new meaning to who shit on your Wheaties.
Yeah, I guess so.
So
wow.
let me ask you guys this. Since we're talking about hydration and water and everything else, what's your guys' take on drinking your own urine?
I'm not going to do it. I don't care if it is sterile. I think all it does, it's a mind game to make you think that you are taking in some liquid, but there's no way. I mean, it's like, what, 80% sodium or something like that? It's mostly salt. And by the time that you get to that point that you want to drink your own urine, you are so dehydrated, your pee looks like orange juice. There's nothing in there for you. Now, if you were completely hydrated and when you urinated, it was clear, that may be a whole different story. But by the time you're thirsty enough to drink your own piss, it's going to look like orange juice, and that's nothing but toxins, in my opinion.
I've heard of some peoples in the Middle East, and I get a lot of this knowledge, not necessarily knowledge. I hear a lot of these stories, and I don't exactly, I can't tell you exactly where I heard them from. Most of them, I try to make sure they're fairly reputable, but I've heard that some people in the Middle East, way back in the day, would make their captives or make their slaves or whatever drink the camel piss, because the camel can whatever. Anyway, I've heard it being done, and I've heard it being maybe prolonging your life. Would I do it? There ain't no way in hell I'm drinking my piss. I think it's got, just like Terry said, way too many chemicals, way too much crap in it, and just like he said, by the time you've psyched yourself up to decide to drink your own piss, it's going to be like, it's going to be a slurry. It's not going to be even liquid hardly. It's going to be so full of toxins. I don't even know why you would consider it. I just think it's silly, to be honest. I mean, I wouldn't even if I lived an extra hour, I wouldn't do it.
Well, I'm on the same page with you guys. I personally do not choose to drink real urine, but I don't know that I've never been in that situation. I've never been so thirsty and so dehydrated that the thought of drinking my own urine crossed my mind. Maybe if I was in that situation, I might change my views and I might do it for a psychological thing, but I seriously doubt it. It's waste for a reason. Your body's getting rid of it for a reason. So, I don't believe that I would do it. but I can't say 100% unless I was actually in that situation.
Yeah. Well,
I think I would.
go ahead, Larry.
I think I would end up puking and losing more vital hydration. I mean, I don't know if you've. I work construction, so I go to the bathroom behind a lot of pretty disgusting guys that don't flush the toilet, or they'll leave it in the urinal for overnight. You know, some guys are just kind of that way. So you go in there the next day, and it just freaking reeks. And if you've ever been super dehydrated, you go to take a leak or something, and I mean, it just reeks. And to think about trying to drink that, I think I don't have a strong stomach with some of this stuff. I think I'd puke, and that would just be very counterproductive.
Well, since we're sort of on the subject of puking and doing things kind of out of the norm to hydrate, let me ask you guys if you could do this. There's like, I forget the percentage, but it's a very high percentage of saline with water in like a cow or a deer or some large mammal's eyeball. How about that?
I would do that. I don't have a real weak stomach. I can stomach a lot of nasty stuff.
I know I've seen you eat nasty stuff on your videos.
So just ask my wife. I mean, I'll eat just about anything. The only thing that I found that I can't really stomach is liver. I can't. I know everybody loves liver. I can't stomach liver. Can't do it. I take one bite of liver and I'm kicking. And that's literally about the only thing.
Dude, you just lost about 10 points in my book right there by saying that. How about you, Larry?
I ain't sucking no eyeball, man.
No?
No, I'll eat liver. We have a bird up by us called woodcock. They taste like liver. I don't necessarily like liver, but I mean, that's what we always raise cows, and we always ate the heart. We always ate the liver. We always ate deer heart. I don't necessarily like it, but I will definitely eat it. Justin likes wood grubs. I ain't doing that. I'm using that for bait. It's just, he's got a stronger stomach than me. I did see on an episode of one of the survival shows where someone took some earthworms and cooked them. I might eat a cooked earthworm if I was like really freaking hungry.
Right.
Yeah, or had like 10 beers in me maybe. But other than that, I ain't doing it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that neither. I'd eat it raw just because I want all the protein.
Oh.
Yeah. Now other insects like grasshoppers and stuff like that carry tapeworms and all kinds of nasty stuff. Obviously I'm gonna bake those guys so they're crispy critters. But worms and stuff like that, I'll just smash those things raw. And that's another thing that people need to take in mind is, people always say when they watch these shows, well, I just eat bugs, I just eat grasshoppers, I just do this, I do that. No, you won't.
Try it.
If you've never tried it, you know what I mean?
Good luck to you.
How is it that I can eat all these grasshoppers and everything else, but I can't stomach liver? Where on the flip side of this coin is, here we're talking to Terry and Larry that both will eat liver, and Larry was talking about he doesn't want to, suck an eyeball. So you don't really know if you have a weak stomach for that kind of stuff until you try it.
Well, I think we just got a good topic for next week, and that's going to be food. So, I promised you guys that I only keep you an hour, and it's 5 after. So we'll go ahead and do our final thoughts and opinions and everything. Oh crap! Before we go there, go one more time with our sponsors, just because it looks so cool, and I love these guys so much. So be sure to check out wolfcustoms.com for your fine leather goods, and I can tell you from experience, he does excellent work, and he's also on the panel tonight. And I'm not just saying that because he's on the panel, but because I have his work, and it's awesome. You can also find him on Facebook at Wolf Customs or YouTube under the username Greer Wolf. And while you're on the web already, be sure to check out AmericanWarning.com, and lots of useful information there, world news, local news, and things that are happening that mainstream media doesn't tell you about. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out the book Reloaded, An American Warning by David Robertson. You can find the book at Amazon.com, Google Play, and Barnes and Noble. So, anyways, with that, we'll go ahead and start our final thoughts. So let's see, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Larry, you got any final thoughts for tonight?
Well, I think I've learned something from, or obviously I learned something all the time from talking to any of you guys, Terry and Justin. And I think that even though I have a creek and a river, I think I'm going to start thinking about storing some water. I mean, obviously I have a few bathrooms, and so I do have some water in the back of the toilet tanks and stuff like that. But if my water, I was always thinking if my water were to dry up or if my water were to go away, I still have, or my power went out, I still have water out there. And in the wintertime, we usually have snow. But if it were to get contaminated, that's where I would want to store my water. And I think that would be a good idea. I think I should start, storing 5 to 10 gallons. I'll probably store it in 1-gallon containers. I drink a lot of water during the day, and I think this show has opened my eyes to the fact that I do need to store water, even if I have so much water in my state, because it's easy to contaminate water, and once it's contaminated, you're screwed.
Are you? Don't you get contaminated water out of your river that you distill or boil?
Yes, but if it's majorly contaminated, I'm talking radioactive waste, I'm talking like hardcore chemical spill. They just had that hardcore chemical spill up, where was it? Virginia, or it was up by where Joe Honeycutt lives, and they're opened their taps, and it came out like honey or something. If the river turns like that, there ain't nothing you can do. If it's a little bit contaminated, every water source is a little bit contaminated just about. That's not a big deal. I'm talking hardcore, you drink a couple sips and you're going to die. Or, whatever. You drink a couple gallons, you're going to be very sick. That's the kind of contamination I'm talking about.
Right. I totally agree, and that's the whole purpose of this show. That's why it's called Prepping for a Purpose, because you just never know what's going to happen. So, Justin, what do you got to say, buddy?
Oh, man. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm always going to preach, practice it, taste your water, find out what it tastes like, all that good stuff. And going back to the whole boiling water and distilling water and everything, I do apologize for miswording myself when I said distilling, because obviously when you think about distilling the water, it's the vapors coming out of it. And I do encourage everybody to actually do the research on boiling water long term. I'm actually going to jump back on and do a little bit of research myself, because, like I said, things always change. 1 minute, chemicals being leached into your water from plastic bottles isn't an issue. The next minute it is. Things change all the time. So just like David always says, question everything, question yourself, and question everybody. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate both of you guys for being on the show, and you really make the panel. And we've, I believe that all three of us can honestly say we walked away from this and learned something just from a little chat. And I hope the viewers have learned as well. That's sort of the whole point. But anyways,
another thing I want to say, real quick, Terry, is I want to also encourage everybody to look past their personal egos and everything else. Don't just automatically assume that you know everything. You know what I mean? Just like I was talking about, question everything. Do the research and do the time. Figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Don't automatically assume that you know everything.
Exactly. That's a very good point. And just like the subject tonight was water, who could have thought that three men could have had a conversation for just a little over an hour just about water? So, and for those of you that think that you can just go out and drink out of a creek or a stream, just like Justin just said, try it. Go out and boil the water first, filter it first, please, and then drink it. It will not taste the same as what comes out of your tap. People like me, and everybody on the panel that grew up on well water, actually like it better than tap water or bottled water, because like Larry said earlier, it has flavor. it's actually, it's got a taste. So, anyways, uh, the whole show, just to reiterate here real quick, I don't want people seeing this show and think, oh, Prepper's crazy, blah, blah, blah. If you actually watch the show like you did tonight, we didn't talk anything radical or crazy. So people that do watch the show, I appreciate it and I value that. So make sure you tune in every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Or if you're watching the rerun version, that's great too. I appreciate that. So one more time, be sure to check out wolfcustoms.com for all your leather needs. You can also find them on Facebook at Wolf Customs or YouTube at the username GreerWolf. And also be sure to check out AmericanWarning.com, where you can find all your local and worldwide news. So I had something I was going to say after that. I had it in my head and I screwed it up. I'm not a good broadcaster like David, fellas. So, anyways, I appreciate my panel being on the show. Be sure you check out Larry Roberts' YouTube channel. His username is Larry Roberts. And also check out Justin Wolf's YouTube page. It is GreerWolf. I'll spell it wrong. Justin, spell your YouTube channel.
It's GRIERWOLFE.
All right, and they both have excellent bushcraft videos and all kinds of stuff, more than just bushcraft, especially, well, they both do. They've both been around forever. Anyhow, and be sure to check out Outdoorsman's Paradise. That'd be my page, and make sure you like us all and subscribe. So with that, we'll see you guys next week, and we appreciate all our viewers.